Hello, everybody in chat. I'm here with Eric Canete for another Friday stream. Always the best stream of the week.
As you're winding down. Hi,
Yeah,
everyone. Thanks for having me.
basically. So some of you might remember Eric from we did a drawing challenge where we did like what was it, Scribble? I think it was the website
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, that was fun.
And I've also reviewed his series, or at least the first couple books of his series,
Yeah.
Arc Athena.
Thank you so
Recommend
much.
for anyone out there who are looking for more superhero content. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a great artist. How do I use this again? Aha. Yes. And book 5 and 6 are
They
out now.
they came out a couple of months ago. It took forever and a day, only because life and scheduling has a tendency to throw a monkey wrench into the works. But it finally came out. I released both of them at the same time because I figured for as long as people have waited, I didn't want to, have a gap between 5 and 6. So again, the 5 and 6 are released simultaneously. It's available at iconiccomics.com. Please complete your collection. And as a matter of fact, it's a better time to, if you have not picked up the series yet, it's a better time to go in there because they're selling the whole thing as a bundle at, I think, at a pretty substantial and remarkable discount. So go check it out.
Yeah, very, very, very cool stuff. So not Kickstarter this time, straight to Iconic Comics?
Yeah, I did the Kickstarter. I'm just not built for it. Some people have the tenacity, and I don't. Have you done it right? It's you have, yes. And
Yeah.
it takes so much energy. There's so much I don't react very well as an audience, right? Like I don't react very well when somebody's talking to me for 30 days about their book, right? So you're always in that whatever in that salesman space. You're always trying to make people aware, and I guess there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the reality, especially when it comes to my experience, is that there is that early bump. There's that lull in the middle, and everybody pours all sorts of energy to get the what I think to be a pretty decent as the sales trickle in towards the middle, and then there's that bump towards the end as the campaign ends. And so campaigning for 30 days sometimes, I can't remember if I did more last time, but let's say it's 30 days, it's just so taxing on my energy. I'd rather be drawing and just make it available for you. And the best thing that's worked for me is just make people aware, hey, it's out, and then through good word of mouth, as most iconic comics books seem to have, it really does that. Those people are I think the most valuable advocates for my books, not just my books, but everything from Iconic Comics. So they're the ones that are consistently talking about it. And if I did my job right, I think, even more, it just compounds moving forward. Even more people talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, it's funny you bring up the campaigning thing because, I'm actually quite terrible at actually running the campaign because of the whole advertising side of it.
Yeah, sure.
I feel guilty just constantly telling people to buy stuff from me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I bring it up for 2 seconds and then I move on to the next thing and people forget about it. And I guess people who are really aggressive about selling their book are more successful at it.
Yeah.
But, you also scare away certain types of audiences for being too aggressive.
I'd be kind of interested, you immediately fell into, you just said something right now that's interesting, and I did too. People who are more aggressive at doing the sales pitch are more successful, and I'm not convinced that that's true, right? Aggressive, I don't know if aggressiveness immediately equates to better sales. People become more aware of it for sure, but how much that translates into somebody going oh cool, I've been told for the fourth time, I better go buy it now because I wasn't interested in buying it the first or second time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
from my own experience, I like the repetitive nature just because I will actually forget about it until somebody brings it up again.
Sure.
And then I'll be like, oh shit, I had to buy that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think there's value in that. I never thought about it in that perspective. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think if what Iconic Comics does, which really fascinates me, and it's really the part that intrigues me the most, and the part that I'm doing my very best to uphold, is building that foundational trust with an audience. I think when you
Mm.
have the one book and you're aggressively trying to sell it, that kind of, if there's buckets, right, that kind of goes into the buckets of what everybody else is doing, right? Which is like, and eventually, when does it become noisy for people? Where like I've heard not necessarily the same exact sales pitch, but like, the spirit of it is like, oh, my book is coming out. I got 30 days. Here's the beginning, here's the middle, and here's the end, right? So that's pretty typical and standard. I think how you cut through the noise is building that foundational trust with an audience and then having not running a sprint, but instead running a marathon. Because at some point, especially, I mean, I'll use Common America as an example. They're on their 10th volume right now.
Yeah.
And if they've plateaued, I'd be pretty surprised. I think it's always been an incremental increase each and every single time they launch a campaign. And I think it's because and I'm writing the coattails of this too, so I'm clearly aware that I'm the beneficiary of their consistency. But like having people understand that these guys aren't here to just do the one book and then moving on to whatever it is, and then I'm gonna wait another 10 years, like 2 years, 3 years to get the next book. I think having it come out consistently plants a different sort of like seed in people's minds of like, oh, these guys are really committed to their projects, right? So I'm here for the long term in order to support them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I get what you mean.
Yeah. I think people are like, oh, they're not just doing the one book and disappearing for another year or whatever it is, or 3 years or something like that. Instead, they're releasing one each and every single year, and I love being able to support people. Me myself, I love being able to support people who are consistently putting out stuff, because I know, hey, it's not going to be forever until the next book comes out. Which I mean, as I say that, it took a year and a half for books 5 and 6 to come out, and thankfully, people have been remarkably patient about that, because now they're like, oh, finally, you're tying a nice bow to the story, and the feedback has been pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and as like I've been like moving towards doing more longer form books, so it's
Sure.
been difficult for me to also like keep that consistency of putting something out every year, which causes
Yeah,
me to like branch out to like other avenues, like, oh, well, maybe I can do like a short story here
for
and a short
sure.
story
For
there
sure.
while
Yeah.
I'm working on the main thing.
Yeah, but that still falls into the consistency bucket, right? Like
Yeah.
you're still consistently putting out stuff, and therefore people are now, they've kind of mind mapped you into, oh, this is an actual publisher and a creator and a writer and artist. You know what I mean? As opposed to, oh, I've kind of forgotten because there's 20 other people doing the same exact thing, if that makes any sense. In a space like this where there's just so much like static noise, what are you trying to do to cut above it? And I think one of the things is establishing that foundation of trust with your audience.
Yeah, you can't be flaky,
For
and you
sure.
also need to care about everything that's coming out, because if
For
you're
sure.
just like putting out cash grab after cash grab, people are not going to be, really sold on it because it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like you really care about it.
Yeah, and I think there's once you establish that baseline of trust, there is this sort of inherent connection that you care about that audience, right? Like I don't know how many times I've run into people who have bought the book for the first time. They try it, like the first book, and the first thing that I always tell them is that I want you, like, it's easy enough to find me via social media, but also like my email, and not having this sort of writing notches on my belt. I always ask them to give me feedback, and it's so fascinating. The look on their face is fascinating because they just think like, oh, this is one of those transactional things where I buy a book and I go away and never talk to you again. But instead, I'd like for them to get involved, because again, you find the one advocate that'll say, oh yeah, I've been here since the beginning and this thing is phenomenal, and I'm going to talk to 10 other people. I don't know what the dollar amount of like free advertising that's built into that, as opposed to me doing it each handshake at a time. If now there's 3 other people doing that at the same time, and it hits different when somebody else is telling you as opposed to the creator. Because it's, I feel like I'm doing a sales pitch, but when else is saying it on my behalf, it comes off as a recommendation. Does that make
Oh yeah.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think a lot of fans maybe underestimate how valuable reviews are, or just
Yeah.
just talking about something that you like online is.
For sure. Yeah, for
because
sure.
like the
I
creator can only do so much to push their own material. They also need like kind of a movement behind them also pushing their material out
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's why I'm not embarrassed to say that there is this giant wake that I'm riding behind when it comes to Common America. I sort of, get the splash effect of the trust and foundation that they built with their fan base. Oh, I really liked him. I really like Mark, and then I really like Doug for Soul Finder, and I think I like Eric. Like it's an interesting thing to be a part of a group that has been so consistent and so devoted to growing their fan base, but I think in the most quiet way possible. It's just like it just builds on its own. I know that in on X or on Twitter there is like this really concentrated, very devoted set of fans that just continuously retweets everything that Iconic does. And again, by way of like association and proximity, I get the benefit of that. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Captain Hyrule also mentioning, were you at Bell County Comic Con this year? I want to say I saw you there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was. In the way we've set it up for the past 2 years, 3 years. It's typically Tim and Mark in the corner would come, and then Doug, then me, and then they have a rotation of the other artists that's under the Iconic Comics imprint. So after me, I think it was Sven who's doing the stuff for his books, and then eventually Bryce and Scott who are doing Kindred Heavens. So each year there's a rotation, but consistently for the past 3 years it's been me, Mark, Tim, and Doug. Yeah,
Yeah, very nice. They
yeah,
run that, right? The Iconic Comics people. They run the
they do. It's a
yeah.
fascinating thing to think about. It's really admirable, the person who started it up, because in taking on the task of being an imprint, they ask some really relevant questions, which is like, where do you sell these books? And I think the owner of Iconic just, I think, took a couple of tours with Tim at the as the story goes. And if I'm telling it right, like they went and checked out what a comic book convention looked like. And he's such a hometown boy that he was like, I don't have anything like this in my town. So he just started it. He just said, screw it. I'm just going to go rent out a space, come up with the comic book convention. I can't remember this year's head count. I think it breached 30,000. It might be more. I might be misrepresenting that, but it's a huge show. Massive
Yeah,
show. Yeah.
that is incredible.
Yeah. It's
Sounds so
fascinating how well
stressful
organized
starting
it
your
is.
own convention like
Yeah,
that.
but that's the level of entrepreneurship. It's like you guys don't have, wait, what do you guys need? We don't have a distribution arm. One of our biggest pain points is, we can market it, we can get on crowdfunding and get it funded, but one of the bigger challenges is getting it out on time. And they were like, well, we can build an infrastructure for that. It's just like the go get 'emness of people when they're in, when they really see an opportunity space of like, how do I help my friends, but also how do I run a smart business? And Iconic has always been at the front end of like, here's what other people do, and then here's what we can do to help optimize for it. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're like, instead of wood, let's make it out of rubber this time, and let's put air in it. Just optimizing. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Especially if there's that demand for like a comic convention in the area, you can definitely take advantage of that and
for sure.
do
Yeah,
the
for
biggest
sure.
one. That's very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And I think I remember going there for the first time, and I think my wife had a similar reaction. I don't make a big deal. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to a show, a small show. I'm gonna go to this show with Tim and Mark and the guys. And she was like, oh, okay. And then for whatever reason, it ran up on her social media feed. And she was like, the way you made it sound, you guys are in a lobby of a hotel somewhere. That thing is freaking huge, And I was like, yeah, I guess I didn't sell it enough of how big it is, right? And we are, again, we are the beneficiary of being associated with it because all of our characters, all of our iconography, all the visuals for it, all the art is just all over that show. So we just inherently benefit for people going like, oh, if they don't know what it is and they're just looking at the show for a comic book convention show, we've had more than enough people come by the table going like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that there's a comic book company associated with this as well, and we get an opportunity to talk to them and get them introduced to our books.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I gotta finish Common America. I remember reading like the first one
Yeah.
way back in the day, and I
Yeah.
thought it was really good, so I bought like all the omnibus and everything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it's just like sitting on my desk for a long time.
Yeah.
I gotta
I'm
get
just as
back to
guilty.
it.
I'm just as guilty.
Yeah.
I'm working on, and I don't think it's a secret, but like I'm working on an Arc Athena Common America crossover, right?
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
as
that's right.
I'm doing the pages for it, there are times when I had to, like, in our private chat, I had to ping either Mark or Tim or both and be like, hey, what does this look like? This, with this power manifestation for X character. And I have all the books sitting in my living room right now, and they're so patient with me. I can just tell they're rolling their eyes in judgment to be like, you have our books, you can't be bothered to go take a look and go read it or whatever it is. I'm like, at this point, it's so overwhelming. You guys have like 9 volumes, which is to their credit. But I just need the answer of like what this lightning power looks like, And so they're kind enough to take a screenshot of something and send it over to me. So yeah, I'm totally there with you. Yeah, I get them with every intent of reading, and then everything else just fills up my schedule.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a huge stack of books in general that I have to get to reading. Not just comics either, but like
For sure.
actual like novels too, and which
Yeah.
are much
Yeah.
longer to read, of course.
Yeah.
They don't have any
Weren't you?
pictures. Oh no.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You actually have to engage with it. You have to be like you're an engaged person as opposed to looking at just a pretty picture. Weren't you in a
yeah,
convention
right.
2 weeks ago? A couple of weeks ago, weren't
Uh,
you set up somewhere?
yeah, I was at Based Con, which is
How
like a
was it?
very small
Yeah.
convention, but
Yeah.
everyone there really actually reads.
Oh
So
wow.
we have
Okay.
like this ongoing experience where people will buy like a bunch of books at the table, and then the next
Yeah.
day they'll have read the books, come back and say, "Oh, it was
Yeah.
really good. I'm going to buy some more,"
Yeah.
and that's like a
Yeah.
really good experience because it's like, oh, thank God they're not just the type of buyer who just buys a comic and then puts it on the shelf and never looks at it.
Like you and me. Like we just buy it,
Yeah.
put it aside, and eventually get to it. That's cool. How's that been for you? You have your own publishing imprint that has been going on for 4 years now, maybe closer to 5, or
Something like that. Granted,
yeah.
like it was mostly just me making a website for me to put my comics on for a while,
Sure.
just so when I wasn't doing the campaigns, people would have another place to buy them. And then
Sure.
now I'm like kind of opening up a little bit so that people can also, if they need a place to put their comics on for people to
Sure.
buy, they can
Sure.
like do it through me.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm not
How's
like
that?
taking their rights or anything though.
Yeah, no,
It's just
but
kind of like a host.
it's pretty interesting for you to go into that entrepreneurial space to be like, hey, I understand the pain of not having sort of a home, and you're like, I think this could be an opportunity for you to bring it over here. I benefit because there is now a catalog, and you benefit because I take on a little bit of the grunt work of having of hosting it someplace. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I wish I was like as good as the Iconic Comics people when it came to like pushing that though.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
very good at it.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think one of the general benefits, or one of the best things that you can potentially do for yourself, and I see it through through the guys, is like just consistency. Just putting
Yeah.
stuff out makes people go like, oh, you guys are a serious comic book publisher, which is one of the first things I remember having a conversation with Tim the first time that I'd met him. He was like, we just make books, we make books. We fulfill books, and then we make the next book thereafter. And he was telling me, there had been because people are such a huge fan of those books, there is now this ancillary component to which is like all the merch that comes along with it, right? And then I think they just crossed the threshold of like, now if you're not relevant before, you're so much more incredibly relevant thereafter, because now they have their own sort of like installment in Japanese bookstores that's Common America, centric. And then,
That's right.
there's like little short anime trail. It's just incredible. So the point I'm trying to make is like, once you start establishing that there is a level of legitimacy to what you're doing, as you're doing now, by the way, because not only is it the catalog, but also like the consistency component, right? I think it's just a matter of time. you know.
Yeah.
It is to say good luck, man. I'm excited for you.
Thanks. Doing my best, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is difficult juggling, of course, with the YouTube, the making my own comic, and then also like pushing for the website and everything.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. I was watching one of your videos earlier today, and I think you were talking about the Pride Month comic, and yeah, I wasn't not necessarily the subject matter, but certainly the fact that you're trying. It just sounds like a bunch of plates that you're trying to keep spinning. And and once in a while, if I'm ever on social media for any direct, like if I'm ever doing scrolling at like 4 a.m., I'll see one of your drawings from like 2 days ago or like a day ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how does she do it? Everything from YouTube, drawing the comics, and then going out to promote it. That must take a lot. That must, like, I don't know what your calendar looks like.
Yeah, on top of that, I'm also like getting art lessons so that I can keep on like improving the art itself.
Yeah, yeah. Is that what the towel exercises have been? Is that what that's part of?
Kinda, yeah.
That's so cool. Good luck. That sounds like so much fun. How's it been for you?
I mean, I think that I've seen some improvements, at least in the past year, but when you're doing a long book and then you're making improvements, all you can think is, oh no, I'm gonna have to go back to all these pages and like
For
edit
sure.
all this stuff so
Don't
that
do
it all
that.
looks
Don't do it.
consistent.
You'll do it the next time. Like, just get the books out. People are so forgiving, especially if they know you've just put everything into it. The craft part will eventually catch up, and eventually and potentially you'll have like that opus where like everything came together perfectly. My environment design, my drapery, my character design, my inking, my lighting, my everything. But right now, I think people are just looking to support you in however they can once you put stuff out. But it's
Yeah, and I
exciting that you're
think
back into art school, or like you're taking art stuff. That's awesome.
yeah. It's we're done with the college. Now we're going straight towards mentorships, which I think is the better option for people anyways.
Yeah, yeah. What does the mentorship mean? Like, you actually have somebody who's going over your work and like giving you feedback, or what does that
Yeah,
mean?
she gives me like homework every week, and then we like meet up on Discord and she'll do corrections and like try to explain like how to do it better,
Yeah,
basically.
that is so cool. That is so awesome. I want mentorship. I want somebody. Right now, I'm struggling with 3D. Like, I'm trying to learn how to do like 3D sculpting and 3D modeling. It is so different. It is such a giant pain in the butt. Like, I've seen people, like, especially because Blender is like 100% free. You can do whatever the heck that you want, right? And then they're about to bring it to the iPad, which just excites me like you wouldn't believe, because my time in this office ends at 6 p.m. I have to go out there and turn back into a pumpkin and turn back into a dad and go hang out with kids and family. So I try not to chain
Right.
myself to the desk, but man, there are times when I'm just struggling in the best. I think you can relate to this. I'm struggling with something I'm learning, and I'm seeing incremental gain. So I want to keep doing it because I'm like, oh yeah, if I get this now, once I turn this corner, I'll know how to do this forever. I'm doing that same thing with 3D. But my issue is information retention. Like, I learn it today, and if I don't do it for like 2 or 3 days, I'll be like, how did I sculpt that? What was the buttons that I used to get this kind of, to get, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, being
Yeah.
repetitive with like the motion of doing a thing is part of how it like imprints in your mind, I guess.
Yeah. Do you work the same
Because
way?
like
Do you like, is it about repetition for you too?
yeah, well, at least with drawing, I have to go through the motion a lot of times until
Yeah.
it actually starts to cement in me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, you can tell me why it makes sense. Like, the why it's like, for instance, the one that I was sort of like, chuckling at is when you were doing your towel studies. And it's basically, to me, it's a drapery exercise, right? Like, to understand why the towel folds the way it does. And
Yeah.
somebody was walking me through, I remember this was like years ago, somebody was like telling me that's the right way to do it for that material. Like, that's the way to do the drapery like that. But if it was denim and or something that's heavier, like leather or whatever, but silk falls very differently. Cotton falls very differently. Like, lighter materials look very different in the way the drapery looks. And you can tell me that, and I'll know, oh, the same way I'm telling you the story right now. Oh, it looks different because they're made out of different materials. But the actual execution of it, I have to actually do to remember. Like, oh yeah, cotton looks like this, silk looks like this, leather looks like this. You know?
Yeah, and it is crazy, like how much information you have to retain about so many different things when you're drawing
Absolutely.
comics, because you got to learn how to do everything in every
Yeah.
angle, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of things that you can draw.
Yeah. It's it can get overwhelming. I think and I'd be curious to know if and when you get to this place, if you've gotten there already. Like, there's the exercise of getting to know everything. And then at some point, because you're drawing, as I'm going through this right now, right? Like, there's a way that I'm drawing Comet America and Arc Athena that I'm drawing it very differently than Arc Athena in this series. Number one, I'm aware of Comet America's audience, right? It's very like anime and manga centric. And so I'm trying it. I'm not trying to draw. Well, I'm simplifying it, which is this awful exercise. This like, it's so uncomfortable for me to simplify my drawings, you know. But the thing that I'm learning is like, what is the minimum amount I can get away with by way of lines and information that it still reads as, insert subject matter here. Like, do I need to have 20 windows? Can I just have like a big 3 windows and that'll imply that there's a building back there? I'm so uncomfortable with that because I want to draw everything. Like, I would have done it
Right.
for Arc Athena, but now I'm going through this exercise of like stripping everything down. No more lines on their, like, no more extra rendering on their faces, no more extra rendering in the background. What is the base amount? And then ramping up into, okay, that's clearly not, you can't tell what that is. That's just a lump, right? Then instead of going the other way, which is like, I just do a ton of detail and then go, oh gosh, I can't see the characters anymore. It's just way too much detail.
Right, right. Like I kind of get what you mean by that, especially when it comes to stuff like, well, obviously clothing folds. You don't
Yeah,
want to actually draw everything because then it
that's
looks
right.
too messy. And then
Yeah,
like there's also the face when you're drawing like anime
yeah,
faces. There are certain
yeah.
details that you're gonna obscure, and depending on the angle, depending on what you're going for, the expression, there are certain details that you want to pop out more.
That's right. That's right. Those are the rules that I'm learning now. I swear. I'm like, I've drawn that way I've been drawing since forever, but now I'm going through this exercise of like, I'm literally looking online. I can't remember what the search show is. I put like popular female manga artists or something, like like the most whatever. I was trying to see how female faces are being drawn, because there's a way that I would draw it, but I'm drawing it in such a way that's closer to mainstream comic books as opposed to how
Mhm.
manga and anime are drawn. And man, I remember, like, I showed my buddy the most recent set of pages that I did, and he said, "Oh, that would look great, but you're doing this rendering on the nose." And I was like, "Oh, but I got that from." Have you heard of this manga called Battle Angel Alita? Have you heard of that
Oh,
before? Okay,
yep.
so that's what I grew up with, right? Battle Angel and Silent Mobius, and like Kiyomiya, Katsuhiro Otomo, that, like, that era. And then I said, "Oh, that's where I got it from." And he was like giving me grief because he was like, "Battle Angel was like freaking decades ago. They don't draw that anymore." And that blew my mind to know, like, the style has evolved so much. I thought Battle Angel was pretty simplified, but it's gotten to the point now where he was showing me this thing called Dandadan, and I was like, there's nothing on that face. They're like eyes and a slit for a mouth, but they're like, yeah, but that's the production version of that art. That's why they can get it done so quickly. Like, I saw pages from My Hero Academia, and there's like this one big double page spread that's amazingly rendered, and then the rest of it is like ultra simplistic, and that makes me
Yeah.
feel so uncomfortable to draw. Because again, I haven't gotten used to it yet, to be that level of simple. It's still good, but it's different, right? It's simpler. And so I can't. I think the reason why it makes me feel uncomfortable is because I can't hide behind like overly rendering something. I have to let just like the simplest thing sit out there and be like, that might be a crappy figure, that might be a crappy drawing because I can't hide it behind cross
Yeah, it's like
hatching.
you're turning on different switches in your brain
For sure. For sure.
focus
Yeah, I
on
can't
different
hide
things.
behind special lighting effects. I just have to shoot it the way it is. I have to draw it the way it is.
Yeah. I do love the older like 90s anime styles though.
Sure, me
Kind of
too.
more of a retro. They look great though. Sometimes
Yeah.
I think more modern anime goes a little bit too far with the simplifying everything.
Yeah, there must, but there's got to be a reason why people are so. Is it because of the stories or something? Like, there's got to be a reason why people. Like, I'm looking through. There is a reason why AI can replicate that look so well, and I think it's because everybody draws that way in such a way that it's like, when AI goes and scrapes everything, they're like, oh, it looks like this, and so it's learning the baseline way of drawing something, and so there must be a reason why it speaks to people so much, like that version of that art style, because I don't know in too many instances where I saw AI images again being scraped from 1,000 gazillion other images online, where I go like, oh, that kind of looks like Battle Angel. It rarely goes in that space because it's not very popular, right? Or people potentially don't even care for it anymore or know about it anymore.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is it
AI,
just
I
easy
feel
to
like
draw?
has like maybe like three styles that they choose
Yeah,
from, and then they
sure.
just stick to those three styles. There's like the over rendered, like super airbrushed look, and then there's
Yeah,
like the Ghibli filter, whatever that is,
that's right. That's right.
and
Yeah,
yeah, then there's like I guess some cell shading anime
yeah,
thing or
yeah.
whatever.
But it's always this like this. I was looking at it. It's like this always very specific head shape. You know what I mean? It's like the bottom part of a peach. It's always like wide jaw, comes to a point in the chin very harshly, and these like massive eyes that are like the distance between the eyes changes depending, but the eyes are relatively the same. And in the shadow that represents the nose, and if you're lucky, you're gonna get like the counter shadow that represents the other nostril, and then a line
Hmm.
for a mouth. There's not even like an indication of like bottom lip or upper lip. It's just like the line for a mouth. And once in a while, when somebody they render it extra, you might get that bottom or upper lip.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It is pretty fascinating how much you can get away with just like the simplest of lines, and you imply at a face rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
showing all the details of one.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I asked my friend, like, do these, considering things have become so simplified and it feels like things are being drawn faster. Again, I don't want to imply that just because it's simple and it's being drawn faster that it's lacking in quality. That's not what I don't want to imply that at all. But the thing that I did ask was, you know, now that things are a little bit more simple, do they still have assistants? Because I know like that was the big deal back in the day when I learned anything about anime or manga. They would be like, oh yeah, they have like two or three assistants helping them out, to get this book out. I'm like, yeah, no, no, duh. This thing has like a ton of screen tone on top of it, right? There's like I was rifling through like Akira Volume 2, and I'm like, yeah, this guy has assistants. That makes a lot of sense because everything is rendered to the nth degree. But I'm seeing I cracked open My Hero Academia, and I'm like, oh, this thing is a lot simpler. And so when I asked my buddy, do they still have assistants? They're like, yeah, of course they still have assistants. I'm like, oh, okay. You wouldn't think that they would need it anymore because it just seems so streamlined.
Well, it's more so just because of the like time crunch that they have to get out every single chapter, that they need it like a
Sure.
production line going
Yeah.
across to actually get it. Because like some of these manga, they have weekly chapters, which
Holy.
sounds like insane to me. I can't
Yeah.
imagine doing that every week. Every
I
month,
want to try it.
maybe,
I want to try it.
but
I want to see.
oh yeah.
Like as soon as, yeah, yeah, yeah. 2026. Let me try it out to see if I can come up with something weekly. How many? It's a substantial amount of pages though, right? Like how many pages is it per week that it's coming out? Do you know?
Usually around 20 pages.
Get out of town. A week?
Yeah, well, I imagine that they have certain chapters like queued up already, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So do you think that they had lead time? Like they had 4 or 5 months working, and then they start releasing it? Or are they just sort of like in the moment, week in, week out? They don't
No,
have
I
anything.
think they do have like the month's lead time, and then it's like just a matter of getting it completely done every
Yeah.
week. But they
Yeah.
probably
Oh,
have
okay.
like multiple like drafts of chapters ready to go. They just need to
Yeah.
go through the production line.
Yeah. 20 pages per week. I thought 20 pages per month for American mainstream comics was pretty rigorous. 20 pages per week. All right, I get it. I get it. Respect. I take it back. I can't do that. There's just no freaking way at 20 pages. If I'd be like, it would be adventurous for me to say 5 pages per week, but because that's about what, a page a day, in a super simple style. But 20 pages per week. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Get as many
yeah, for
assistants
sure.
as possible.
Yeah, as many as I'm sure that One Piece has like a ton of assistants since it's just so popular. They need to keep it pumping as much as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. 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 I'm wondering what the main guy does, because it's strange to me. Like, I make a point to, as best as I can, I make a point to credit the whole team for Arc Athena, like from the colorist to the letterer to the editor. I give them much credit as possible, but oftentimes I don't know if I've ever seen an assistant's name pop up in a manga. It's not
I think
commonplace.
I've only seen it once or
Yeah.
twice
Yeah.
within like some of the newer manga that's published. They'll like
Yeah.
also credit the assistants like all the way in the back of the book, which
Yeah.
is like a good thing because hooray, they get some credit. But usually it's
Right.
just like word of mouth that they worked on this thing, so therefore they get more jobs. And
I wonder
the
what that
credit on
is.
the book doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. Why not give them sort of like, hey, in the talent pool that helps make this the successful thing that it is? Is it just like cultural, you think?
Yeah, and part of me thinks that it's just because they want the big name to get all the credit and not really worry so much about like the cogs in the clock
Oh,
or
sure.
whatever.
Sure. Yeah, but isn't it also true that sometimes those assistants like graduate into having their own series?
Oh yeah. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because like a lot of people consider doing the assistant work to be like training also
Oh,
partially
yeah.
so that they can
Yeah.
like learn how to do all the inking and everything and then they're able to do it on their own.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's effectively like, you know, on the spot mentorship. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
learning as you
or like a
go.
paid internship or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. There's got to be a documentary about that. I want to watch. I want to watch them
Yeah.
like devolve into like, hell because it's so painful that week. I've seen photographs. I think it's like it's either a meme or just somebody just sent it to me of like what these creators look like making manga, and then like they're chain smoking and they look like they haven't slept for what feels like a couple of months or whatever as you're just cranking away at everything. I respect them to have that level of dedication for their comics.
Oh yeah. You really gotta love what you do. And I know that there are some creators out there who have like started to crack every now and then
Yeah.
just because of how much they need to keep on pushing to keep the series going. Like I remember this really funny story. Well, it's not that funny, but like, are you familiar with Detective Conan?
No. What is Detective Conan?
So it's like one of the, I think it is actually the longest running manga series,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
above One Piece, like way more chapters than One Piece. But
Okay.
it's essentially a very repetitive series. I gotta admit, I love it, but it is very repetitive. And it's solving different crimes, solving different mysteries as
Mm-hmm.
the whole gimmick. But the creator at one point was like really having difficulty constantly coming up with a new mystery for the characters to solve because like at this point 2000 chapters in he's done everything
Oh my goodness. Wait,
and
give me perspective. To each chapter, quote unquote chapter, are those 20 pages that you're talking about, right?
yep, essentially usually around 20 pages.
I just did the quick math in my head at 20 pages at 2,000 chapters. And it's been going on since forever. Holy cow. Okay, sorry to interrupt. I'm just overwhelmed by
I'm
the
sure he
idea.
does have a lot of assistants,
Yeah.
but yeah, and he was getting in like I guess arguments with the editors and everything over like this and that and trying to come up with new mysteries that they were okay with publishing and at one point he was just like screw it, I'm going on a vacation in Las Vegas, and then he went on like a hiatus for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty
Did he
funny.
tell
It's just
anyone?
like, yeah. It's just funny because he can do that because it's just such a big series that he can just be like, screw it, I'm going on vacation. You guys
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. Who was the guy that left? It's sort of semi-legendary. Is a book called Vagabond? Is that what it is? Where they left and have not returned to it for what feels like half a decade plus, and people are anticipating that comeback since forever.
Bakuman? That ended, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's called is it the English one is called Vagabond. Have you heard of that?
Vagabond, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so he was trying to be the next Berserk essentially with like really high detailed, beautiful art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and that's a lot to keep up with, of course.
Right. 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 Oh my gosh. I saw the first couple of yeah, it's a crapshoot for me to know what to invest in because at one convention they were selling the entire Berserk series for dirt cheap. We're talking about in print, and I don't know how many volumes there is, but it was in a different state, and I wasn't
Wow.
about to pack all that stuff into my luggage to try to bring it back to where I am. So I bought the first one, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, there's like, what is it, 7+ volumes now, even more, 5, 7, but it's a lot, and it's like rendered like you wouldn't believe, and people just kept talking it up, and it didn't speak to me all that much. Visually, it was awesome. Like visually, I'm like, oh my gosh, on my best day, like with enough rest and a good meal, I couldn't draw like this. I couldn't draw this much. But from a story perspective, it didn't really do anything for me. So I'm really careful about like, oh, you've got to go, insert whatever manga that I've not read before. This is really freaking awesome. I'm that much more gun shy about like, okay, this is getting a lot of hype. People are like really talking it up, but there's 20 volumes, and you're gonna tell me it doesn't get good until volume 6 or something like that. And I'm like, oh man,
I hate it when people
like
say that. When
yeah,
people
like
just say, like, just keep reading, trust me, it's gonna get good eventually. And it's like,
yeah.
what are you in an abusive relationship
You're
that you're
right,
just
right,
like
right. Like
hanging in there? Like
yeah, I
eventually
always
it'll be good.
yeah, exactly. Spend all of your time. But the money part, like spending, like I think that's the other thing is like the cost of buying manga is the barrier to entry in that space for me isn't as bad. Like for as much as you're getting for the kind of money that you're spending,
Oh
that's not
yeah.
too shabby. I think it's more of the time commitment because I only have so much time on my hands. Like you want me to read through 6 volumes before it gets good? Can't you just tell me volume 1 through 5, and then I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll buy volume 6 or whatever the heck it is. I only have so much time.
I am guilty of like definitely binging entire manga series in like one sitting on multiple
Really?
occasions. Yeah. Well, I do the speed reading, and sometimes manga is really easy to get through very quickly because
Sure,
of how the panel layout is so much
sure.
different from American comics. Like they take things very slow. There's multiple pages of just art and no text, and you can just be like like it's an
Yeah,
animation.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
sometimes you can really get through it.
What's the last one that you sort of binged and you were like totally worth?
Ah, man. Last one I binged. I'm gonna have to like look through my bookmarks.
Right,
I
right. Oh, and
remember like the
you're
last
doing it
video I
digitally.
made. Yeah. So there's a lot of manga that's like available for just for free.
Yeah,
On like apps like Manga Plus, for example. They'll
sure.
just post each like chapter for free as it's coming out, and you can keep up with it every week. But then like the middle chapters, they'll eventually be like, you can't read those anymore because they want you to actually buy the books.
Sure, sure.
But
Makes sense.
for while it's coming out, while it's just releasing, you can read them all for free. And they're hoping that that will turn you into a fan of like
Sure.
what you're reading, which makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So like I'll just be like reading through those every week. And then you can really start binging, that's for sure. But I
Yeah.
read all of Berserk in like maybe 1 week
No way.
online.
Holy cow. So much
Like,
respect.
yeah, I had read like the first volume separate from that 1 week, but then everything else I just right. So that
Okay.
was a lot.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like I can't remember the last time I sat down and really dedicated X amount of hours, if not like weeks, to like reading something straight through. But I guess with Berserk, was it that compelling, or were you just like, well, I'm three volumes in, it's too late to turn back now. Let me just get through the whole thing.
Yeah, so there's like some pros and cons, I think, with Berserk. I don't think that it is actually for everybody, but there is like one of the things about Berserk that you don't often get with many of these mangas, that you can just like stop for a moment and like appreciate just the art in the panels and just like breathe it all and take it in. The concepts interesting, the overall story depressing, but you
I
know,
was gonna say,
very
yeah,
it
yeah,
makes you want the main characters to ultimately succeed.
sure,
uh and eventually there's like a brief period, like sort of in the late middle of the series, where it's not depressing for a bit and like things seem to be going well, and then you're like,
yeah,
oh, this could be like okay, and then
yeah,
something
right.
depressing happens, and then, you know, it's like, ah,
Yeah,
damn it, we almost had
yeah.
it.
I cheated because again I started reading the first volume and realized it's so like daunting to read, not because it's bad, but because it's like, oh my gosh, what the heck is gonna, what did I get myself into, I cheated and I was just like, screw it, and went onto YouTube and was having it read to me like a child in grade school. Like somebody went through the trouble. There's a channel on YouTube that I'd found who was reading the manga as page in and page out, and I was like, let me do this, and even that got daunting. Like I didn't want to hear any more of it. So it was clearly not made for me, and I was like, let me move on to something else that I'll find some level of joy and some level of intrigue in.
Yeah, I also feel like very betrayed when a manga series starts off really good, but
Yeah,
then the writer just makes some horrible decision
yeah,
that completely ruins and invalidates everything that I read before, and then I'm
yeah,
I'm like, man, what a time sink. I just wasted
yeah.
all this on something I thought that was going to be good, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I've become so cynical in my old age. When I find something good, like for instance, my buddy and I were just talking about this 45 minutes ago. We were on a call together, and he was saying, "Have I seen the most recent Alien series on whatever streaming service, right?" And it's really good. It's so much fun to watch, and I love that franchise to begin with, so I'm biased like you wouldn't believe. And so that translated on into like, what have you seen this TV series? Have you seen this other TV series? And I asked him, he asked me, have you seen, he said he had to catch up with this series called The Bear. Have you seen that before?
No.
Oh, it's amazing, but it's 3 seasons deep, right? And I said I stopped watching after the first season because I'm so cynical for the same reason that you were talking about. It's like it's so good, I don't want to go to season 2 and have it suck. I just want to remember
Yeah.
the really really good season and be like, no, I never got farther than season 2 or season 1, because I don't know what season, like he said, oh yeah, the third season just came out and it's really super good, and I go, yeah, but there's a second season there that sucks really really bad, and that would have turned my stomach about it. I'd be like, oh, that's too bad, I really like the first season. So now when I find that one, it's so weird, it's part of my psychosis where I just don't watch anymore afterwards, like after I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me. You guys tell me how it goes here from here on down, and maybe I'll catch up to it
Totally
later.
understandable.
Yeah.
Because like people say that about a bunch of different shows, where it's like, okay, season 1 it was a masterpiece, and
Yep.
then when they came to season 2, they fired all the writers and then hired a bunch of cheap writers, and then it's
Right.
just downhill from there. I think
Right.
that's what people say about like the Walking Dead show.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that first season, and having never had seen anything like that on television, at least not in recent memory, how well put together it was. And I think, I don't want to say by season 2 that it turned bad, but definitely by the later seasons, I felt like there was a feeling that I got that they were just like, let's stretch this out. Let's just like prolong, the franchise a little bit more. At least I mean, who knows how ultimately accurate that is, but I can safely say that by the time the later seasons rolled around, I was like, oh, this feels a little bit more like the same.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that period of skepticism as well. Whenever anything new comes out and people are like, no, trust me, it's good.
Yeah,
Please
yeah, yeah,
watch the
yeah.
thing. I'm like, I
Somebody
don't know, man.
exactly. Somebody in chat just said Westworld, and that's what do you call it? That's apropos because my wife just fired it up again, and we were watching that first season. I asked her like, "Did you end up watching the remaining seasons of this? I think there's like 3 or 4." And she's like, "Yes, I started on season 2, and it just didn't hook me anymore." And I was like, "There you go. First season is all you needed." You know?
Yeah, just only season 1 watchers from now on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
End
yeah.
it while it's at its peak.
Yeah. Why is somebody telling like says Dannphan, don't wear those specs for show? What is that?
I don't know. I gotta take my glasses off, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. So weird.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't even remember the last new show that I watched that I actually enjoyed. I feel like it was as far back as maybe like Cobra Kai when that first came out.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember watching that, and then eventually that one got a little bit more soap opera-y and a little bit
Mm-hmm.
less
Mm-hmm.
cool. But you know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
I still enjoyed what I watched of it. I watched like the first 3 seasons, and then we stopped. But
Yeah, I have a tendency of like watching the same show twice and having very different experiences with it because oftentimes when there's a quote unquote hype show, like I'll say I've seen it, but I'm lying because I'm typically drawing through it. Like my head's down and it's just kind of playing in the background. There's some scenes where I hear like some kind of something dramatic will happen and I'll scrub back and look at it again and be like, oh, okay. So, and then somebody like, oh, yeah, did you see Game of Thrones? And I was like, yeah, I've seen Game of Thrones. And when I actually sit down and watch it, I'm like, oh, no, I haven't seen this at all. I listen to it like a lot, like I'll have it playing in the background because because what's cool about certain shows like that, if it's done well, if it's not 100% visual, is that I can kind of understand what's going on. I can kind of grok like the plot and the characters and blah blah blah. And only on occasion do I need to look up because I'm so busy drawing that it's rare that I can dedicate at 45 minutes of my day to just sit there and be like completely mind turned off and just watching moving pictures. But
yeah,
there are
for sure.
shows where I really want to invest time, and so I tried doing the same thing. The most recent one is this show called Shogun. Have you heard of that before?
It sounds familiar. Maybe
It's
if I
so
like
pretty.
saw, um,
Yeah, it's on
maybe if I
FX.
saw it.
It's so
Um,
pretty.
I don't think I have seen this.
Yeah, it's a beautifully shot show, and I'm a huge nerd for when it comes to like great cinematography and great lighting because I incorporate that into all to my art. And it's awful to have playing in the background because for the sake of like how would you call it, like not legitimacy but authenticity, they speak Japanese throughout, right? And it's
Right.
subtitled, and it's my pain of like watching anime sometimes. It's like it's subtitled, and so now I can't draw anymore. I have to sit there and watch the thing and read the thing. And so now I'm like, I can't watch this show, or I can't have this show playing in the background because I don't know what's going on. I can't
Yeah,
pick up
no,
on what
that's
they're saying.
definitely very relatable, especially
Yeah,
because like people sometimes will get on my case for like, "Oh my god, why are you watching the dub of this thing? The dub is terrible." And it's like, "Well, because
yeah.
I need to hear it while I'm doing other stuff."
Exactly, exactly. Like, yeah, purists, all, please don't come after me. But sometimes I just like putting on the dub of something because it's just, the barrier to entry is just so much lower.
Yeah, yeah. I think like if it's a special show, right? If it's something
Yeah,
that you'll
yeah,
get rewarded for like paying attention to the visuals, I'll sit down and I'll actually watch it proper. But
sure.
I do appreciate the shows that I can just have on in the background for when I'm working, or
Yeah,
podcasts, audiobooks, music. All of
yeah,
that stuff is good for working.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like you're trying to be just as time efficient as me, right? Like, it sounds like of the multiple plates that you're keeping spinning, the deprioritization of like watching movies is pretty obvious, no?
Yeah, yeah. Or if I want to be as efficient as possible, if people like want me to review some show that came out, then I'll like have it on while I'm working just to absorb and also keep the grind going.
Yeah. So between taking classes is how much did what did you say the frequency was? Twice a week? Three like your mentorship. It's like 3 times a week.
It's just like once a week we meet on
Okay.
Discord. We
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
then
do the homework for the week and then
oh
meet
sure.
up and do corrections.
Sure. And then somewhere in there, you're drawing your comics, which is congratulations, by the way. I can see the improvement. It was
Thank you.
like, it was like, here's what you were comfortable with. And like right around the time that you and I met, you were like, I think I want to take this up to a certain level. And then we were talking about what that meant for you. And you're like, screw you, Eric. I'm just gonna do this on my own. And then like it's just like a steady climb because I saw the pages for Reaper, right? And I thought to myself like, oh, she's trying a bunch of new stuff here that I'd never seen her do before. But you were previewing pages recently. Is it Reaper 2 that you're doing, or has that come out?
Yeah, Reaper 2 is what I'm working on right now, and it's probably not going to be done until like early next year, but
It's
luckily people are
crazy good
patient.
though.
Thanks.
Crazy good. Like your development in your art and your I think there's just a level of comfort and confidence that you're doing now. Maybe because this is sort of like, yeah, I've done this already. So now there's things that I know I'm super confident with. But I think it's just that, like the reps that you put in is really starting to show. It's really good. Really, really good.
Thank God. Because it feels like, you know, this never ending battle to keep trying to improve your art. And finally, I'm just like putting in the work to actually get it done, you know?
Yeah. 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 I think that it's like you can talk yourself out of it an awful lot because there's always going to be that what's the term that they use? It's like this imposter syndrome of like, am I even good enough to draw this? And like I'm learning as I go and blah blah blah. But it's like there's more value in application, like you're actually doing it. And yeah, it sucks, but what's the page count for Reaper 2?
Reaper 2 is probably going to be around 200, so it's going to be like
Holy
double
cow,
the
what are you
size.
doing,
Yeah.
man? That's
I,
so
I
hardcore.
I made the mistake of like continuously adding pages to help with the pacing, and then at some
Yeah.
point it just like blew up quite a bit.
It's
But
so
I also
right
have like
now.
I'm including in that like extra pages that I'll have at the end of the book for like character profiles and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, but story
So
pages, how many pages is it you think? Is it still
maybe
200?
like
Tell me it's
around
not
like
200.
maybe like 190.
Holy cow. What are you doing? That is crazy. That's crazy. But
Yeah.
and I respect it an awful lot because at the end of the day, it's your thing, right? It's the thing that you're passionate about. It doesn't the other thing that I'd seen when again, you've only how many pages, how many images? You haven't actually previewed more than 3 pages maybe and a panel at a time if I'm keeping track in
Yeah,
my own
every
head.
now and then as I'm working on panels, I'll like screenshot something and post it on Twitter just to like
Yeah.
show that, hey, I'm still working on it. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, it just to me the point that I wanted to make was that it seems like it's a well like you really love doing it.
Yeah,
And
well, you gotta love it,
yeah.
Otherwise, what
Yeah,
are you
well,
doing with your life?
well, that's the thing. It's like it's easy not to say that, but some people whose personal projects I've seen, they start off super strong, right? And then months pass and they're still working on it, but I can tell they love it less, if that makes any sense. Like you can tell it's become work now. And it's not to say that it's not work, because it's always going to be work, but there's not that sort of drive. You can just tell, man. You can just kind of pick up on it when you see the art. They just really love drawing that character.
Yeah. No, I can definitely feel that with a bunch of indie comics that I've picked up, where I can kind of tell if it's somebody trying to maybe capitalize on
Yeah,
some sort of trend or just doing something that they think other people will like,
yeah,
versus someone who's trying to bring to life their own vision, something that they
sure,
feel very strongly about.
sure. Yeah, yeah. And it's got nothing to do with, for me, it doesn't have anything to do with like the level of polish and craft, if that makes any sense. I've just like kind of like unlinked those two things together or from each other, which is like oh, it's drawn well, therefore they must be so passionate about drawing it, right? Like I've seen projects where I'm like, okay, by way of craft, they're early in their career, or like they're like, you know, they're still figuring things out, but I can tell they love doing it. You know, like I
Mm.
could tell they love get like, and every subsequent thing that they preview, or when it does finally come out, like I can tell when you started versus like 20 pages in, it's something clicked, and you're like, oh, I get it now. You know, the like the trap there is like you get 20 pages in and you see how much better you've gotten. You're like, oh, I want, like what you just said earlier, like I want to go back and redraw, you know, the previous 19 pages, and you're like, don't do that, just move on. You're gonna do so much more good, so much, there's so much more benefit to going into pages 21 to page 40 than for you to go and refine pages 1 through 19.
Yeah, and that's the funny part. I've mentioned before that I want to like go back and basically redraw the entire first book.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
to like keep it up to the same standard so it's not so jarring going from book 1 to book 2. But for
yeah,
now I'm like holding back from doing that to focus on finishing what I have right now.
yeah. I can tell that you're getting super comfortable drawing your characters. But and like I can relate to it. I remember like when book 5 and 6 of Arcathena, like I'm looking at it purely from a black and white. I was never concerned how Giuliano would color it, because he's like the guy that kind of makes everything work. You know, like my colorist has a tendency to like take my mess and be like, I know how to make this kind of congeal in the best way possible. But I looked at the last, I don't know, 30 pages of Arcathena and compared it to the first 30 pages. And the most jarring thing, not necessarily the rendering, although I started getting comfortable with that too, was just I got comfortable with the characters of like how I would draw them. You know, at
Mm.
first, and you tell me if this is how it was for you or if you felt something different. But like at first, they were just like the concept of the character. Like I drew the armor to look like this, and I drew their powers to look like this, and I drew whatever, you know what I mean, the details of their costumes to look like this. And then by the time I get to the end, it's now just part of their character as opposed to just the concept. You know, like, oh, that's I fudge that belt a little bit, but nobody really cares because it's just part of who they are. I don't care because it's just a part of who they are now, you know?
Yeah, I kind of get that too. And
Yeah.
also, you know, like once you're more comfortable with drawing the character, you find like it becomes a lot more easier, more polished when you start drawing the character,
Yeah.
because I guess maybe you're not intensely thinking about it so much like, oh, I need to do this, this, and that. Instead, it's just
Right.
coming naturally because you've done it so
Yeah.
many times before.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what I was getting at when it's like, oh, here is the character sheet that I drew for that character, so it's just the concept, you know, and then here is how I'm actually drawing them because you know technically the armor can't do that, you know, like it shouldn't, it would cut through their head or whatever it is, but you know what, screw it, I'm just drawing it like this, and I move the plate, you know, I moved the shoulder armor over like this so that it reads a little bit better. I think I saw that. What is the name of your knight in Reaper? Is it Reaper? It can't be Reaper.
Sidharth?
Yeah, okay, because I remember doing a pinup. I painted a pinup a while back, right?
Oh, you were thinking of like the Horizon Quest?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. But
Right,
most
yeah.
recently, I think it's the main night that you had, and you previewed a shot of it. If I took a great, forgive me, it's like 4 a.m. that I get to see any and all of this stuff. So if I'm retaining information, but there's a level of comfort the way that you drew them. I was like, oh, this lady is so comfortable drawing this dude now, you know? Like it's just in her
Right.
back pocket, you know? That's pretty cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, and you know, like another thing is you figure out how to simplify things as you go. I guess maybe unintentionally on my
Yeah.
part. My brain
Yeah.
always like keeps on simplifying things down to its barest
Oh, yeah.
elements. So
Yeah.
to some extent, I do need to keep the like character sheet on hand to remind myself. Oh no, wait! It's supposed to have all these other extra details on there
Yeah, for
that I
sure.
just like erased.
Yeah, for sure. I think I fall into, I step on that landmine often where it's like if I draw that element, that totally breaks the line of action on their body. You know, like it takes away this flow, this natural flow of how I would draw somebody punching or somebody jumping or whatever it is, you know. And then like as soon as I put it in, I can't stand it. Like I blame myself. I feel, yeah, I blame myself for like, why did you put that on there? For 3 issues you drew that and that wasn't fun to draw, you know, for 3 issues. And now it's just getting in the way because it's a design element that totally throws off the line of action, you know? I don't know if you're the same way. I can't stand it. Like it's almost like the reason why I get disappointed is because I'm disappointed because I didn't have enough foresight to understand that it was going to get in the way, you know?
Maybe,
Here's something,
yeah.
yeah, here's something simple. Like I designed like on Devana's outfit, there's like these three circles, right? And I love the aesthetic of that. I think that's not the first time I've ever designed a character that has those 3 circles on her. But now I have to draw ellipses every time she turns. And you know how hard it is to draw freaking circles in perspective and make it look right? I should have just not, like, get out of here with that, man. Why were you not, like, on the character sheet, it looks pretty cool. I love it aesthetically. But man, I've got to draw this thing over and over and over and over and over again. And now I've painted myself into a corner, you know?
That's something I'm always thinking about when I'm doing the character sheets too, is like, oh man, is this going to be really annoying to draw over and over again?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's not, it's, you know, it's probably like triangles. I'm oversimplifying, but like triangles and squares so much easier to draw in perspective and make it look right. Like it's sitting, like the best way I can explain it is like that little repulsor circle in Iron Man's chest. Like when that's a triangle, it's so easy to convince you that that's right and in perspective. But the moment you mess up the ellipse, it's almost like, oh, it's weird because it's not sticking out in a funny way because I didn't draw it right, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely have a lot of trouble with that also.
Yeah. Are we missing chat? Are people saying hello?
Yeah, people are saying stuff. Let's see. I put on streams for when I'm drawing. Hard to balance creating and watching creations for me, but I remind myself it's important to rest and indulge in other things.
Yeah.
And Chrislet says, your art style seems pretty confident to me.
Yeah. I fooled you in the best way possible.
Yeah. It's funny when I talk to other artists about like doing art and I'm like completely convinced like, oh man, you're a professional. You know what you're doing. And then they're like, no, I don't. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, it's true.
The world. It's like chaos everywhere.
Yeah, there is a like conceptually I know what I'm doing, but in the moment things can get away from me very quickly, right? Like the hardest part of, and I think you've run into this, so please speak up if you know where I'm coming from so I don't feel so alone. But like the hardest part is coming up with a panel that's like compositionally strong. Like I really feel confident about like, oh, that reads, you know, I've omitted enough, or I've included or omitted enough detail for people to like understand what's going on. And then I have to put the dialogue bubble in there. And it throws off that composition so hard, dude.
Oh my God. And then you have to like change it around to find like the right space for the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference between like, I guess, illustrating versus doing the actual comics. Cause like the entire comic page is essentially an art piece all together.
That's right.
And rather than it just being like separate art pieces per panel. And that's really difficult for me too. It's brutal.
You're lettering, you're pencil, inking, and lettering everything, right?
Yeah, I did everything.
That's so nuts. And the reason why I've been saying that in the most respectful way possible, because as I'm doing, like for instance, Tim, you know, pencils, inks, colors, letters, and does pre-press for everything on Common America, right? And so the expectation there is I do it too, you know, during this crossover, and I'm literally asking him, hey, Tim, what is the font size that you use for Common? And he's like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, you know, he didn't say this, but in my head, he's saying it. Like, he's super judgy, but he's really not. He's super supportive. But because he does everything on his own, he it just comes natural to him. He's been doing it for like 9 volumes, or going on 10 volumes now. So it just comes natural to him, in the pre-production process. And me, I'm like, what is the font size that you're using on your books? Like, what do you have? How do you do your bubbles, or whatever the heck it is? Because oftentimes that baton for Arc Athena I've passed on to Eric Weathers. I've kind of said, okay, here's the script, here's the pages, good luck. Like I've kind of made in my head when I was inking it, and I was kind of made an area for where that bubble is supposed to go. And then it's not always accurate, because Weathers sometimes has to he has to look at what I wrote and like find placement in the art. And sometimes that thing that I'm having him letter does not fit in that area, So that's one. He's one of like those guys that keeps the train on the track. The other one is my editor. His name is Joe Fulton. And I owe Joe everything, because Joe will take a look at the rough of the art and then look at the script, and he'll be like, where do you want these words to go? Because the art is so populated. Can you please not set Eric up for failure? Because he's going to need to, like, this character, he says that thing first, but you have him on the right-hand side. And then, you know what I mean? Like, be smart about these character placements, because if he says something and you don't give enough room to breathe, the connecting tails for each balloon just cross over each other. It's going to be just chaos, And so between the two of them, they're the people that really keep me sort of honest. And now that I don't have them for Common America and the Arc Athena crossover, it's taking me so much time to be like, okay, how would Eric do this? What would Joe tell me right now? Here's what the script says. Where does the bubble placement go? Do I chop that piece of dialogue up and move it to panel 1? Because if I put it into panel 2, all of it into panel 2, it's just going to be a chunk of text like this big on the page, like I don't have them as my guardrails anymore, so
right.
You've gone through it, right? You're the one that has to do the self-editing.
Basically. I mean, like, I have like beta readers, I guess, who I like share with some of my stuff. They can give me some early feedback and point out typos, but overall, most of it is just me like fiddling with stuff and trying to adjust it. The only time that I'm really happy for a word balloon covering up part of the art is when I've made a mistake and I just got to cover that up. Go right over here. Yep, that's perfect. But other than that, like, I never want the word balloon to touch the art or the characters. And sometimes it just kind of needs to, and I got to like push myself to doing that.
Yeah. The thing that I found, especially because I'm having to actively put the word balloons, is how much time I'm saving by not drawing any of those backgrounds. Like, it is the best thing to be like, oh, I don't have to draw this building anymore because the word balloon goes here. Like, I've caught myself multiple times, like, because I'm trying to make it the panel compositionally strong, and then I snap out of it and go like, wait, why did I leave this empty area again? Oh, that's right, because there's going to be a word balloon here. And man, my day gets so much better. Like I zoom through those pages so fast because there's going to be a word balloon there. It's so good.
Yeah, in general, I like to, or at least with the most recent book, I've been doing like the character art separately from the background art, so that I can just like breeze through that part and then go back and then do the backgrounds. And
oh wait, so your process
sometimes it's like a kind of a background
first?
day, and sometimes it's I try to do characters first, unless like I really just aren't drawing characters well that day, and then I switch over to backgrounds.
Yeah. Okay, that's so cool. I've never thought about it. Like, you literally have this production pipeline mentality. It was like, I'm in character mode today. And
exactly. Because I feel like
background mode.
It gives me like one thing to focus on, so I can like set my brain for doing that thing, and then it comes out better because I've decided to just do this thing.
That's cool. I want to try that. I've never thought of doing things in that way. I always thought like there is this level of completionism that I want to have, where it's like, I'm done with page 10. I don't ever want to see page 10 again, right? But maybe if it's working for you, because it sounds like it just sort of like keeps you in the right headspace where I'm just doing characters today, you know? That's so
Right.
cool. I've never thought of that before. That's great. I'm
Yeah,
gonna try
in
it out.
general, like the way that I've been doing things recently has just been like characters, backgrounds, lettering, and then like the last thing will obviously be like corrections, like going back and
Yeah,
like red marking things that need to get changed or adjusted, and word balloons that need to get fixed, etc.
that's so cool. Thanks for that. I'm like, that's a great takeaway. I want to try it. I'll report back to you to see if it's working for me. If I start getting itchy and want to finish the page off or something like that. What is the font
Yeah,
size
I mean,
and
definitely
style that I
give it a
use?
shot.
What is the font size
Right.
and style that I use? I am meant to, as Tim Lim, the guy who basically pathfinds everything that I need to know. I am meant to do it in 10 point, but here's where we get screwed up. He and I like, oh, it's supposed to be this. He tells me a specific font size, right? And then I do it on there. I'm like, it looks microscopic on my screen,
Yeah.
right? And then I send it to him. It's like, is this what you mean when you're saying the font like this stuff? He's like, your file size is massive. Of course, it's gonna be like itty bitty on your screen, and that's the kind of stuff. When I ask Eric Weathers, who's a professional letterer who lettered Arc Athena, he's like, you don't think of that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, there's a reason why I hand the baton off to you, so you go do it. You know. And so the things that I learn when I'm having to do for myself has a lot to do in spirit of why I wanted to do the series to begin with, right? Because like I wanted to know what the crowdfunding space looked like for myself, as opposed to like in the past when I worked in mainstream, it's the same thing, right? I do my part, I hand it out to my editor, and then they do their magic. 3 months later, the book comes out and I signed for it, blah, blah, blah. But I really wanted to know what it meant to go like end to end production and know what that meant for me as far as my limitations are concerned. One of which I told you earlier, which is like, I'm not meant for crowdfunding. It's just not in my nature. Although I suspect when this book comes out or when this book is ready, I'm probably going to need to crowdfund it. So I better freaking giddy up and learn how to do it, you know? But there's also like the everything that I learned in the space of like being a publisher, being a writer, being an artist, being a collaborator. You know, I've always just kind of done things on my own, but having an editor in place and learning why certain shots work and certain dialogue beats work. Like this is what you're saying. This is what you're actually saying. Like one of the things that Joe walked me through was like, here's how you wrote it. Here's how it's going to be lettered, but let me read it to you as a person who's reading it, right? How it comes off, and if this is what your intentions are. And just having that second pair of eyes of like, here's how it's tracking on the page, and here's how I would read it. Does that seem weird? And if the answer was like, no, that's exactly my intent, then cool. But oftentimes, more than oftentimes, Joe will read it out loud to me like I'm a second grader. He's like, this is how it reads to me as a reader of a book. Is that what you mean? I'm like, no, that's not at all what I mean. It's okay. So let's rearrange it. Let's move it around so it reads better. Let's find a certain
Super
dialogue track.
valuable feedback.
Yeah, for
Very
sure,
valuable.
for sure. And so
Just
again,
knowing the reader's perception of what you're writing is
yeah,
because you have that disconnect. You're reading it through your own bias, so you don't
that's right.
realize how other people are going to read it.
That's right, 100%. And it's like, oh, it's meant to be read like this. You know, when I said that, and Joe's like, okay, that's the intent, but by the time it gets to me, this is how I'm gonna read it, and that impacts my experience of like how I understand this character. And that was so profound. That's like a profound level of learning to be like, oh, right, effectively write this thing as if I don't know the God code of understanding everybody's motivations and everybody's thoughts in their heads, you know, write this. And most importantly, handhold them through the experience of, you know, what each and every panel means to them, basically, you know, like the narrative. That's the kind of learning I wanted to do, you know? And so now I'm doing a version of that just by lettering it on my own. Thank goodness it was the script, the story was mine, but Mark and I worked on a story together. But Mark is actually the Mark Pellegrini who writes Common America. He's the one that wrote the script. And Mark is so like, it's so amazing to work with Mark, because Mark is like the easiest, one of the easiest collaborators I've ever worked with, right? So he sends me the script after he's kind of wrote it up. He's like, Eric, do you have any feedback? And generally, I don't have any sort of like pinpointy feedback when I'm reading the script. I think I experience it as I'm drawing it. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. Like, if I'm reading it on paper, I'm kind of like, okay, it all makes sense. All the words are spelled right, and it all, one scene leads to another. But then once I see it on the page, I'm like, oh, that's not working as well. Like, I understand the intent, but that's not working as well, because now we're seeing it in a visual space, right? Like, I'm having to track, like it's, for instance, it's a location. Here's one aspect of a stage, and it needs to be adjacent to a construction site. And I'm trying to understand, like, how far away does that stage need to be in order for this scene description to work, because it's critical to the story, right? The best part is, as I'm drawing and I'm sending it through our group chat, and I go like, hey, Mark, I need to change it X, Y, and Z because of, whatever, right? For clarity, for character, whatever it is. And Mark is like, totally cool. I trust you. That's an amazing, to me, it's not coming from a place of like, I have final call, but it's me checking in with Mark to go like, I understand your intent. Please tell me in this change if that impacts the story. And I think he trusts me enough to be like, you've been working in the industry for a while. What the heck? Why are you? Of course, that's your job. Your job is to draw the book. Like, right. It's. I would hope that he tells me if something feels awkward, because some of those characters I'm not 100% familiar with. But when it comes to like layout and pacing and storytelling, what's great about the collaborative process is Mark trusts me implicitly.
Yeah, that's kind of been my experience also with like working with artists, and then also working with like a writer. Is like, there's this kind of, when it's a good relationship anyway, when it's a good collaboration, sure. There's this trust put on both sides to know how to do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're the artist, you should know how to do the art part, and you're the writer, you should know how to do the writing part.
Yeah. And to Mark's credit, that guy's really good. He's like, there are simple things that Mark he writes funny, if that makes any sense. He writes funny really, really well. And he's got such great, he's got a great propensity to write a gag that pays off in the best way possible. I'm really super guilty of this. Like, I understand the gag and I want to out funny Mark on the page, like visually. And so I add a thing and I'm like, oh, I overdid it. You know what I mean? Like, when something is like, it's like this curse that my son has. Like, when he tells a joke and I'm laughing at it, he keeps wanting to tell the joke over and over again. Whereas like, that's not funny anymore. It's kind of corny now. Like, I have that curse too, where like Mark does something funny on the page and I want to one up the funny. Like, oh, I know how to ramp that up. It's like, if you ramp that up, it becomes corny now. Just let it play the way Mark writes. And it's so good. It's so good the way he did. I'm so excited for the fans to read it. My only fear is that I think, obviously Tim is the lightning rod for anything and everything visually for Arc Athena, or for Common America. The only thing is, like, I'm changing my style a little bit to accommodate that audience's expectation. Not 100%. Like, I can't draw manga to save my life, but I draw manga-esque things, right? So I'm changing my style a little bit to accommodate that audience expectation. And I really hope I live up to that expectation, because it's these, people read, in my limited vantage point, but probably coming from a space of truth, like, people read, so many more people read Common America than they do Arc Athena. And Tim is effectively doing me a great favor by saying like, yeah, use my characters to help boost yours, which is what's great about Iconic, I just don't want to let them down, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm excited to see what you come up with when you start like actually sharing more stuff about the crossover comic. It sounds like super exciting, honestly.
It is. It is.
And to everybody else,
I'll send you stuff offline. You tell me what you think.
Sure. To everybody else, make sure you also check out Arc Athena, of course. Book 5 and 6 just came out. You can binge the whole series, and beautiful art. Oh, that's the wrong. Yep, there we go. And for now, we're going to call it here, though, because I do actually have to get off and go to my art lesson. But
get to it. I'm excited for you.
Joining me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Thanks for having
It
me.
was great conversation. Feel free to come on again sometime.
Will do. Will do.
Well,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.
yeah, thanks to everybody in chat. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.